Tonight, I'm showing you my super strong, super simple clamp rack. Thanks for coming to check out my clamp rack. Don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the little bell icon so that you can get notified whenever I post a new video. Now, I have been storing these clamps in various corners of my shop for months now, and I decided it's time to get them organized. After I built my partition wall, which you see behind me, I decided this would be a great place to put a clamp rack. I designed this so that the clamps are stored within the footprint of the wall. First, I got a couple scrap pieces of plywood and cut them down to fit between the studs. I also cut a few support blocks to go under each side. I then measured the spacing of my clamp and drilled holes at the location where each clamp would go. After drawing the tangent of those lines back down to the edge of the board, I cut out those notches on the bandsaw and sanded it with some adhesive back sandpaper. This stuff comes in really handy when you need to sand in a tight space. I usually just stick it to a piece of 1/4 inch plywood and it works great. After some thought, I decided to cut a bevel on the end of each slot to make it a little bit easier to get the clamps in place when it's up high. For the installation, I put the rack in place and leveled it first before screwing the 2 support blocks to the wall. Because I like to over-engineer my projects, I also added a back rail to help support the weight of the clamps. The rack was then held securely to the supports with pocket screws on either end. I duplicated this design and built it in 2 different locations in my shop to support all of my parallel clamps. Now, these clamps come with handy clips to keep your work off the bars when the glue is drying, but they can get in the way and get lost too. So underneath the clamp rack, I added 2 aluminum rods where I could store these. I also created a simple shelf and added some hanger blocks for my band clamps. This clamp rack is simple and strong, and it can be easily configured to fit whatever type of clamps you have. Just cut different size holes in the top plate. I will probably build more of these racks to store my clamps as my collection grows, because I've quickly learned that every project you have will use all of your clamps plus 1. And as any good woodworker knows, he who has the most clamps wins something. See you next time.